Well, hello there. Thank you for joining me today. I am Ron. I am from cammastery.com, where you can go to learn more about how to use Camtasia effectively. Today, my hope is to answer some questions for you. I'm going to go here first. So the whole idea here is, on Sundays, I tend to come in around 11 a.m. Eastern and answer some Camtasia questions. If you happen to show up live, awesome. I'm happy to answer your questions then. If not, I have a few questions that I'll go through and answer without you having to ask me. So these are questions that I get throughout the week, or a few of them, and I pick and choose the ones that I want to talk about. And so today I have 3 for you. The first question is about the narration versus the recorder. The second is about the behavior offset. And the third is about the placement of a table of contents. So let's start off with that first one. And if you have questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat if you're here with me live. So for the first question, it says, when adding, let me just go a little bit bigger so I can see this easier. When adding a voice narration, which would you recommend, narration or recorder? Okay. So the question is, whenever this person is recording, he's saying, hey, we have a couple of options for recording. And which one do you recommend in which situation? Do we even need to? Maybe we don't need both of them. So what he's referring to here is first using just the recorder. So when we use the Camtasia recorder, we have the ability to record our audio directly while we're recording. The second option is voice narration within Camtasia. So let's maybe jump over to the screen and take a look at what we have. So if I use the recorder, if I go to click record, I'll have to drag this in here so you can see the recorder, and maybe we'll zoom in nice and big here so you can see that recorder much easier. In the recorder, I can just say, hey, turn my microphone on and record that. So if I go in here, I can say, hey, let's use, this audio, for example, and then you can see the audio going through. So Ron, when you record, do you do this? And sometimes, in fact, most of the time, I will do something like this because I like to record live. I like to record my screen and my audio at the same time. My personal preference is, yes, use the recorder to do audio. The person's question, however, is, if we look at Camtasia, so let's go back to our screen, and we're in Camtasia, he says, you could have a project already in here, and then you can go to voice narration and then use voice narration to capture your audio that way. So we see here in the upper left, we can, first of all, we can choose the voice narration tool here on the left, and we can use the V key to do that. Then we can choose the audio source, so which microphone do you want to use, and then we can adjust the volume levels up and down. And then if we want, we can use a script. So one of the things that I might do is, if I am using a script, the nice thing about using voice narration is to put that script in the voice narration and record that way. I don't typically record with voice narration, but the times that I have, it is because I have a scripted item and I didn't record live. So when would you record with your screen, record your audio with your screen, or record your audio afterward? Most of the time it comes down to your familiarity with the content, and if you're comfortable doing both at the same time. For someone like myself, or perhaps the person who asked the question, he says, look, I'm fine recording my audio and the screen at the same time. Just knock it all out in one fell swoop and we're done. And great, if you can do that, that's perfect. However, if you're new to Camtasia, you might be thinking, I'm not sure, I have to think about where the mouse is and where the audio is and the levels and the clicking and where am I going next and is this full screen and what's happening? So if you are new and you're frustrated and there's too much going on, then just do one thing at a time. Just record your screen. When you're done, record your voice. So that's why people might choose one over the other. Again, if you're more familiar with the content, the material, great. Do them both at the same time saves you time. But if you are new to Camtasia and you're just still figuring this out and you want to have a separate audio, go ahead and do that audio separately. And then you can synchronize with whatever it is that you were creating, whatever video it is that you're creating. So let's go back over to our questions and we'll check out question number 2. And this student says, hey, what does offset mean or do? So this is specifically within the behaviors section of one of my courses, the Camtasia Mastery 2020 course, which, let me see if this works. Is this going to work? Is this what I wanted? Hey, look at that. So you can go to cammastery.com/store and check out the Camtasia Mastery 2020 course. It's a full course, shows you everything that you would probably ever need to do with Camtasia. Very complete. It's also very long. It's several hours long. But if you go to cammastery.com/store, you can check that out. So his question was, what's this whole thing with offset? What does that mean with behaviors? So let's head over to Camtasia and take a look at what he's asking. So if we go to Camtasia, and let's say we're going to add an annotation. So I'm going to go to an annotation, and I want to add some text to the screen. Now I'm going to put this in here, and I'm going to put a little more text. And then I'm going to blow this up so we can see this much easier on the screen. Okay, so he said, I'm going to have a behavior. So we're going to go to behaviors. Remember, behaviors are more like, they're like advanced animations. It's where you can do multiple things, multiple animations at once. And most commonly it's used with text, but you can use it with video or with graphics. All right, so he says, I'm using this, I'm using my text, and what does this particular thing mean? So I'm going to grab any one of these behaviors, and I'll just drag it over to my text box. It doesn't matter which one. Remember here, I'm going to go to the upper right, and we see that there are 3 parts to any behavior: the in, the during, and the out. So this is how it will start, what will happen while it's on the screen, and then what happens when it leaves. So I'll just zoom in here so I can see this 5-second clip a little easier. And, so drifting, it's going to drift in. So it's going to swing in this way. And then it's going to do this little up thing during. What is that? Just drifting again. And then the out is drifting. Okay. So let's say for in, what this person wants to do instead of drifting. I'm not personally crazy about drifting. Let's just do a fade in. So let's see how that looks. So if I play through this, you can see that it fades across the screen from left to right. Okay, so let's go back out to the full screen here. So we can see when I move the playhead, you can see that it's fading from left to right, the whole thing all at once. All right, so that is all of the text left to right. What some people choose to do though is they'll choose text and they'll do first to last. So now as it goes through, it's going to fade these in, and you can see rather than the whole left and the whole right, it'll do the first few words, and then it continues on. All right, so now on to his question. His question is, what on earth is offset? All right, so this is going to be easier to see when we're doing this first to last. Let's bump this offset up to like ½ a second, and then let me go back here to the beginning. I'm going to press the space bar to play through, and notice what's happening. As it goes through, the offset is showing us every ½ a second or so, it's going to start the next letter. So there's the G, and there's the O, and there's the I. So every ½ second, it's starting a new item as it goes from left to right, or the first text to the last. Now, of course, ½ a second for each letter is ridiculous. Like, that's way too long. So you would want to make that much, much shorter. And even here at it looks like about 1/8 of a second, that's still super low. Like, it's just dragging out. So when it comes up, it's usually much shorter than this. I forget where it was, like 0.04 or something. So now let's just play through that. There we go. All right. So that is what the offset does. The offset is really just saying, how long do I wait before I start the next thing? So if you're doing like a word at a time or a whole, whatever, image at a time, well, you wouldn't have an offset for an image. But if it's for text, how long do I wait before I start the next letter? And then it will do that effect for the next letter in the sequence. So again, probably really, really short in order to have this appear something that's going to be pleasing to your audience. So that's what offsets are in behaviors. Now let's take a look at our third question, and we're going to spend a little bit more time on this one. And this one talks about the table of contents. Let me zoom in on this so I can read this much easier. This person, Chris, finds himself in a bit of a quandary about the table of contents and what to do. He's looking at an example that I do, and he's basically saying, look, I don't want to take up any more room on my slides than I have to, or on my screen than I have to, when devoting space to the table of contents. So let's look at a couple of different options. In fact, I have this. Let's go here. I have a few examples that I put up that we can do as layouts. So the first layout that I'm going to show you here, let's just go full screen, is what he referred to in the question, which was seeing something that I had done. So what I had done was I put a menu there on the left. And basically all that was a text box. It wasn't exactly a text box. It was actually a screenshot of text on the left-hand side of the screen. And then I just talked through that text box. So in there, what I did was on the side, there we go, I would just say, all right, here I highlighted this area, and then the next area, and then the next area. So I had a sketch motion box just kind of go down through and say, this is where we are with a rectangle around it. This is where we are next. This is where we are next. And just left that up on the screen the whole time. All right. Second option then is just like it, only it's putting it on the other side of the screen. So it depends on what you're working on. It might be, and in most cases it is, the left side of the screen where things are happening. And so you might want to put your table of contents off to the right. Again, mine is just, if you can think of it just as a list or a text box, that'll work. The next option is to put it at the bottom. Now, this is one of my favorites because when you have the table of contents there at the bottom, it takes up a lot less room. If you compare 1A to 2A, you can see that there's a whole, in my opinion, there's a lot less white space that's being consumed, and I can pretty much show the entire video. So you can put it at the bottom. Of course, naturally, you could also put it at the top. So there are a couple of options for you there. So those are options that I like, and I'm going to come back to option 2 here in a little bit. But Camtasia gives us the ability to put these layouts over top of our video and then hide them. So we can start with a table of contents over top, and it's kind of see-through. So I try to show like a little bit of see-through here on this particular slide to say, look, you can have, the list of items there on the left, and I prefer just to have the text, but you don't have to have just the text. Another option that Camtasia gives you is you can say, I want the text and a thumbnail. So you put the two together. Now, when you do that, that thumbnail has to take up some space vertically. So you're not going to be able to list all those different items in the entire table of contents. You'll have a scroll bar or the ability to scroll down to find things within the, to see what the different menu options are. And then the last option is to just have the thumbnail itself. So those 3 options are options within Camtasia, and I'll go into Camtasia and show you those. There are 3 additional ones. Of course, I did that. I showed you with all of them on the left, but we can also do all of those on the right. So I can have the list, I can have the list with the text, or I can just have the text there on the right. So those overlay options are available. Let's head over to Camtasia and see how we do that. To use a table of contents, you're going to put markers in your timeline. So I'm going to go down here to the timeline. 0 is just where it would start. You know what? I can still do this. I'm going to do a Shift M to add a marker, and this marker will be called intro. And then, a few seconds in, like here, I'm going to add another marker. So I'll do another Shift M, and this marker is going to be called, part 1. And then a little bit later over here, Shift M, part 2, and then we'll end with part 3. So I'll go here, Shift M, and I'll type part 3. So you can see when I do Shift M, it creates these markers down here at the bottom. And then if I zoom in here to the upper right, this is where I'm actually typing in the name of that marker that I want to have. Okay. So we'll go back to full screen. So now I have these different markers. I can see them down here with the marker view. If that's on and you don't want to show that, I'll hide that. So you can click this little drop down area. Let's zoom in here. If you just use this, you can show or hide the markers. The other thing you can do is Control M to show or hide the marker view. So up to you if you want to use buttons or you want to use keyboard shortcuts. We'll leave them on the screen for now. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create a video. So we're going to say, let's go ahead and produce this video. And when I do that, I'll say custom settings. I'm fine with that. MP4. Yep, that works. And the important part here is that we want to produce with the controller. All right, so produce with controller allows us to have that overlay. Now, with the production with controller, you are it's adding more content to your video. So you can only use this on sites where you're hosting your videos. In other words, you can't have a YouTube video where it shows up, as an overlay on that side and then goes away. These are extra files that are not available in YouTube or Vimeo or Wistia or any of your other hosting sites. The only way to leverage this functionality with the player, called the Smart Player, is to upload them to your site. So this would be a website that you control and you are able to go in and you can upload files to, or it is a cloud storage site. All right. So want to make sure it's very clear. If you want this, if you're uploading this to YouTube, then your only option is to put those, kind of burn in is the reference that I used. Burn it in either at the bottom or somewhere on the side. But if you are hosting the video yourself, you have these options. All right, so let's go back to Camtasia. And here we see the option to produce with controller. That's what I want. And over here in the last tab, the options tab, I have the option to include the table of contents. Of course, I don't have to do that. And in that, that wouldn't help me at all in this video. So make sure that those two boxes are checked. Produce with controller and table of contents. With both of those selected, I'll go next. I'll go next again. And here is where I see the marker option. So let me try and zoom in a little bit here. There we go. So here are the marker options. It's calling it, at least that's the name of the title of this window. And we can say, do you want to number these? Do you want to have the table of contents initially visible or not visible? So I prefer to have the table of contents visible at the beginning so that people can see them and know that the table of contents exists. If not, they might have no idea that they can choose something from the table of contents. So again, go to the table of contents, or show the table of contents for your viewers. And so yes, I like to leave that checked. Again, you don't have to. And at the bottom, here are the three options: the text with thumbnail, the text only, and the thumbnail only. Again, my preference is text only because it takes up the least amount of space. However, you do have those other two options. So I'll do text with thumbnail so you can see what this looks like. I'll leave these just like this. And then the last part was, do you want it on the left or on the right? And I'll just leave this. Well, you know what? I'll put it on the right just to beat it. No, I always put mine on the left. I don't know. I could show you the right, but it doesn't matter. All right. So that's what I want. I'll say next. Where do we want to save this? Let's save this in our, let's see, recording. No, let's use, we're live. So let's put it here. And this is our TOC demo. So we're going to call it TOC demo. We're going to just file it there in that folder. And the other thing that I want to encourage you to do is organize these files into subfolders. The reason for this is that otherwise it'll just dump a whole bunch of files and you won't know what files you need to upload to your website or to your cloud. So bundle everything or put everything in that folder. That will help you. And then let's go back here. So that's all ready to go. Let me just say finish. This should be fairly quick because it's literally a 5-second video. And now let's give this a shot. Let's take a look at where this is. So we'll go live. We'll go into our folder. Here's our TOC demo. And what I will do is I will open up this file. So I'm going to find the HTML file. And there we go. I want this file. So this is the HTML. You can't quite see it, but there it is. So there's the HTML. I'm going to, actually what I'll do, let me open something on another window here and drag it over. Let's see if I can do it that way. Okay, so with this open, if I double click, it should open in that window. Perfect. So I'm going to maximize this. Now you can see it's just looking at the file that's on my machine. Let me just make sure that this looks correct for you. Yes. And so I'm going to click play. And when I play, notice, oh, there they are. There's the table of contents there on the left. Now I'm going to pause this so you can see here's the intro and the thumbnail, the next one, or the thumbnail and its title. And there they are. And if I bring my mouse off, it's gone. Bring my mouse back up, it comes up. Another thing you can do here is you can see that we made this searchable. That was one of the checkboxes that we had whenever producing. And if you said, oh, I'm looking for something that's called part. Oh, okay, well, here are parts 1, 2, and 3. Notice it filtered out intro. Or if I say, I'm really interested in part 2, let me just type the number 2. Well, it found 2 in that title and took me directly there. So this is how we can add the overlay to our video and not take up any space on our video. All right. Let me do one more thing that I want to show you, because this video, you can see it's a specific size. It's not taking up the majority of the screen. So let me go back to Camtasia and just show you that part, because sometimes that size isn't exactly what we want. It might even be too large. In this case, I wanted to show it to you larger. So when we were here on the controller, the other thing you can do is go to size. There we go. The size tab will say, how large do you want this to be? And so what I'll say is, if I wanted this to be larger, I can say, actually, let's make it 1280 by 720. All right, 1280 by 720. Next. All that good stuff is great. This is TOC Demo 2. So we'll say finish. It's in the right place. Yes, we'll say finish. And then we will jump back to that folder. We will go to Demo 2, open up that first file. And now you can see this is larger. If I click play and then pause, it's now a larger size than what I had over here. This one was smaller. And you might be working with a learning management system or something that needs it even smaller than what we're providing here. Or you want it embedded on your website and you want it even smaller. So you can go in and tell it exactly what size you want it to be, right? So if you say, hey, rather than making it larger, how can I make it smaller? Same place, local file. Next, size, and you say, nope, I really want it to be something like 640 by 360. Looks like we can't go that small, so we'd have to make it 480. All right, well, that's okay. Guess it can't have the image down quite that small, no problem. So 480 would be the minimum, but this is how you would go ahead and add those tables of contents to your videos. Now, I did one more thing. I created a file. I was having a little fun with this morning, and I told you I kind of like that bottom part, having a menu or a table of contents there at the bottom. So what I did, let's jump back over to Camtasia, is I created a project called Lower TOC. And we don't need to save that one. And the way I thought about this was I said, well, look, here we can put our menu, right? The first item and the second item, whatever your menu is here at the bottom. And I wanted so you can do that, and then people should be able to follow along. You could put like a rectangle around it and just kind of move it as you go from item to item. But I created this for you because I thought it would be a little more fun if you had this item fade in, and then as it's going through and goes to the second, the rectangle moves to the second item, and then it moves over to the third item. Right? So whatever your items are, it goes through and kind of highlights it for you as you zip across. And then when it's done, it fades out. So I thought that was a neat way to emphasize or to highlight or to show what it is that's happening on the screen. So if you want to download this, there's a link in the description below for where you can go to sign up to, and I'll email it to you. The other thing I want to show you is how to edit this. So if you did download it, let's look at how we would edit this. Down here in the lower left, let me zoom in. You'll see you have a few things. And what I had to do was duplicate the text and the shape. And then I have this alpha channel here. So for now, when you go to edit, of course, you're not going to use these menu options for second, third, fourth. That doesn't make sense for you. I would first hide this option. Then I would go in here and choose the text that you want to put in, right? So I put these pipes in between, but maybe you want, topic 1, pipe, topic 2, pipe, topic 3. And maybe that's it. Maybe you just have 3 topics, and that's fine. What I would do then is I would grab this, copy it. I would click outside. Then I would hide this layer, come in here, double click, and paste those same items in there. And of course, it's going to do that with white text, and we want that to be black text. So we'll just make it black. We get it black. There we go. All right. So now I will unhide this, and I will unhide this, and I'll go to the beginning, and there's topic 1. And then this rectangle comes in, and it's highlighting, well, nothing. Well, that's not what I want. So what I would do is I would grab this and say, oh, let's bring it to about here. This is the first position. And then well, I would want it to fade in. So I would, let's see here. I would change, I don't think I can actually copy, oh, there we go. Copy properties here, double click, paste the property so it's in the same location. Oh, didn't give it quite the same location. All right, let's right click and delete this item. There we go. So let's resize it to what we want. There we go. So there's topic 1. Then I would do a Shift A and say, well, we want it to fade in. So before this, let's make this, oh, and you can't see in the upper right. Let me make sure you can see this. So I added that animation, and then here in the upper right, let's make that opacity 0. So now when I pass through this, it will, well, let's go here and play. Then it changes over to topic 1. Then for topic 2, it moves over very slightly. That's not where I want it. I want topic 2 to be right here. And then when it moves to topic 3, I want it to move to right here. Okay, and you get to resize this as you need to. And then we don't need these other animations here at the end. We just want it to fade out. I'll even delete that one because, you know, wherever we're ready to fade out, we'll go here. We will do a Shift A to add the animation and then drop that opacity all the way down. So now if I go to the beginning, I see my topics are there at the bottom. It goes and says, all right, now we're talking about topic 1. And when we're done with that, we'll go to and talk about topic 2. When we're done with that, we'll move over to topic number 3. And then when we're done, we'll just fade that out and people have all the topics there at the bottom. So I think that's a fun way or a nice way for you to be able to use this. Again, you know, it's 2 text boxes. They need to be exactly the same over top of each other. And then I thought about it and I wanted to try one more thing. So if you were looking at the bottom of my screen, you'll see that there's another area there at the bottom. And I think this one is even a little bit more fun. Similar idea, but just slightly different. So let's take a look at that. Let's jump back over to Camtasia. And what I'm going to do, let's just zoom a little bit down here to the bottom. Perfect. So now I'm going to show you what I did here. So you can see a list of, let's see, maybe, is this better? Yeah, let's go with this. So you can see the list, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and then it's like cut off. You're like, oh, I wonder, you know, what's going to happen here? Well, let me hit the space bar and we're going to fade in on the 1st. And then as it goes through and it plays, we're talking about the 1st, and now we're going to go over to the 2nd. So notice that what really happened was the menu is sliding over and the box is staying there in the middle. And then we go to the 3rd. So now as it's playing through, all of the items are going to move from one element to the next, and then it goes to the end, and then when it's done with the end, it fades out. There we go. And you can see it cuts off, you know, part of the video you can't, or part of the menu, you can't even see that. So I like this. I think this is a little bit more fun. I have that text box at the bottom, and there are times, you know, like the word 1st is a little smaller and 2nd is bigger, and then 3rd's a little bit smaller. So you'll need to adjust those animations. And if we look here at Camtasia, then we see those animations. I animated all 3 of these. The animation for the text, or for the box itself, this is just the size of the box. So when I'm looking here at this rectangle, I leave the rectangle in the same position. I just change its size, its width. And the easy way I was doing that was, if you're coming up here and you want to change this width, hold down the Control key. And then as you move this, notice it will keep it proportionate on both sides. So it keeps it centered the entire time. So I'll use the Control key and I'll say I want it this and this position, you know, and then I'll hold down Control, and, you know, 2nd is a little bit longer. And then I go, you know, over here. So that's just moving the size of the rectangle. You know, again, if I hold down Control, it'll keep it there in the middle. And then what I had to do was move these elements. You know, so I said, you know, add an animation and then grab both of these and then slide to the next thing. So I would slide it to, you know, something like this. And then I would say, okay, well, let's make this a little bit bigger. So we'll go in here and make that wider. So now, you know, I'll jump right from the 2nd to the 4th. So if I play through this, there's the 2nd, slides through to the 4th. And that's all you would do is select these 2 together, you know, change those animations or move those animations, move the, you know, slide that menu as you need to. If it's further to the left, great, no problem. Slide it further to the left. Find about where that center is. Again, hold down Control on this track. You can see I didn't quite get that, so I'll go back down here to these 2 and drag it a little further to the left, try and get that as centered as I can. And now it just goes right from the 2nd over to the 5th. And if you wanted to, you could jump around, but just a fun way to animate this. So if you have questions about this or any other questions while I'm on here live, go ahead and throw those questions into the chat. I will check on those here in just a second. And I wanted to tell you where you can go to get this. So of course you could create this on your own, but I've saved you time. I've created this for you, and I put this, where is my screen? Here we go. I put this at cammastery.com/lower TOC. So if we look here in the upper left, cammastery.com/lower TOC is where you would want to go. And when you do, you just have to enter your name, your email, click send it to me, and I will email that over to you. So just that file. And again, if you want to find that, it is in the description below. So I have a direct link so you can download that from the description. So now I'm just going to jump over, make sure, yep, no questions in chat. So it looks like we are done for today. I thank you for joining me. I hope this has been educational. I hope it's been helpful. And if you have other questions, hey, get a hold of me. I'm happy to answer those questions for you however I can, whether that's via email or via YouTube like we did here. Happy to do it. So thank you again so much. Just so you remember, I am Ron from cammastery.com, where you can learn more about Camtasia, and I will see you in another video. So long.